is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lore Reloaded. I am your lore master, James. It's great to see all of you guys here. Hey, let me know how everything's going on. I am doing this on a brand new machine. Not really impressed with the video at the moment, but hopefully everything else is coming through. Let me know if there's any specific issues. Hey, while we're talking about issues, if you aren't following me on twitter.com/lore reloaded, what the heck are you doing here right now? Go to twitter.com/lore reloaded today and today only. You'll be able to follow me for absolutely free. Additionally, you'll get to see all kinds of fun stuff, like the fact that I got into a fight with a United States veteran, apparently, because I was disrespectful in some form or fashion. We'll get into that in a little bit. Also, check me out at twitch.tv/lore reloaded. That'll be restarted this week. Going to be hitting it hot and heavy, as it were. All right, and with that, let's say hi to a couple people, then I got to address some drama, and then we will just get into our Borg ship's people. We got Asian Phasian. What is going on? Matt Deckard. We also got Daniel Christian Rohrer Peters, the first, I would say. 100% American Buffalo. EAE, Troy Skeets, Josh Street. We also have Commander Knight. Hey, everybody, we can get started. We can get started because our cat's gay is here. Also, Nathan Norman, always a pleasure to have you, Nathan. Always my pleasure specifically. Planet Stupid, how you doing? All right, so let me go ahead and address some of the drama, and I was tempted to either include this in a video or kind of go over it. So my most recent video that I'd done was a video about Starfleet uniforms. And as always, uh, there are a couple of things that I didn't nail exactly, especially when it comes to the real U.S. military, which isn't surprising since I've never been in the real U.S. military. Among those was that there was uh, a part where I talk about the Navy having stuff on their sleeves, and what is shown is the Army. And Fancy Teeth actually did the visual edits, and he came forward and kind of took the brunt of it. But it doesn't matter. I look at the videos before they go live, and I'm the one that okays everything. It's, for all intents and purposes, on me. There's a couple of things to that I want to address, and then I want to address the controversy, if you will. The first one is, and by the way, again, guys, this is a brand new computer. Let me know how everything's coming through. The first thing is that we know through the original series, the uniforms, or not the uniforms, but all of the branches were brought together. All of the divisions were combined. You aren't Army, you aren't Navy, you aren't Air Force, you're Starfleet. The divisions themselves no longer existed. There are several points when Kirk talks about that. Secondly, even though the Army was used, it was the best picture that we found that we could use that was high resolution and didn't fall under any issues with copyright or specific to um, privacy issues. Honestly, people act like doing YouTube is just easy and you just put images up and you're great. Unfortunately, this is how well, not unfortunately, fortunately, this is how I make my money. And so I have to be very careful in everything I use. Believe it or not, while there are mistakes that I make, I try to be very, very defined and specific with the video that I'm doing. You said hold on, you said the audio's um, privacy issue. Sounds good to me. I can turn up the gain a little bit if you guys would like me to. I'll turn it up just a little bit. So there are images of the Navy, and people got upset. It's like, well, you're using the Army and you say the Navy. It gets the point across, people. You need to relax on that. But even then, it's the best image that we could find, and I stand behind that. The last part to it that I'll say, and then we'll get into the actual specifics, is that there was a user by the name of Jared. Guys, I'll raise it. Hold on. Does that fix it? Hold on. Wait for it. Oh. Well, the gain's already up. So does that fix it? Is that a lot better? Should be better. Let me know. Uh, a little bit. And so the last part is there was a user by the name of Jared, apparently a vet, and I felt like I was respectful, but wasn't really necessarily committed to the conversation. Uh, so a lot of people got upset about that. Dude on Twitter went after me, saying that I was disrespectful to all people everywhere or something like that. I don't honestly know if I'm being honest. Webcam mic through. You know what? That might actually be right. Hold on. Ah, that's what it is. Ah, I see. I see. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. I see what's going on there. Hold on. Wait for it. All right. Can you guys let me see down here? How's that? Is that a lot better? Should be like tons better. Uh, so let me know. Anyway, going back to what we were talking about beforehand, though, I may have been somewhat disrespectful. I'll be honest with you guys. I am going through a ton of stress, and I am getting hit from multiple different areas. I am in fights with just all kinds of different people, and just having nothing is easy for me. There's an echo now. There's an echo. So let me know. Anyway, going back to there is no echo. Stop messing with me. You guys, that's not. Ugh. Anyway. Also, people are like, I always respond negatively. I get anywhere from 150 to 300 comments a day, and I respond to half of them at least. So if I'm short or if I'm disrespectful, either I'm just having a bad day or I'm just responding. I'm giving what I get. Yeah, both mics shouldn't be on anymore though. That should be fixed at this juncture. So anyway, that's that. I'm not going to really go much more into it, but that's where we are with that. So I apologize if I ever come off rude. So hope you guys forgive me on that. But whatever. Let's get into it now. I'll be doing a video. I'm hoping I'm going to get the video done today, though I may not. Let's talk about, are Borg ships people? Are they? And really, the conversation I wanted to have was how are Borg ships constructed? Because there are a couple of ways to go into this. And, well, hold on. I can deal with the echo on if you want me to. Hold on. Wait for it. Wait. We are the Borg. See? I just did it with the other one. So, there's two instances to it. First, I have a theory that people disagree with, but I think is very, very apt and is true. I don't think the Borg construct vessels the way we think they do. I don't think there is a Borg construction yard. I don't think Unimatrix 01 or any of the Unimatrix actually construct the vessels. I do think that what happens is the Borg will find ships. They will then assimilate those ships, and those ships will ultimately become the Borg vessels that we see, that they'll be built out. From this, I think that there are certain steps and stages, and this was actually brought by a fan, a commenter, and if I remember the name, I wish, but I can't. But all of the different Borg vessels we see are the stages that you see the Borg in. So, like for instance, the Borg probe would be the first stage, would be the first built out. The Borg probe would eventually become a sphere, which may become a diamond. So that would be a little tough given how a diamond's constructed, but ultimately become a cube. This seems exactly what the Borg would do. The Borg aren't known for making their own things, from starting from scratch. What they are known for is for taking something, assimilating it, and making it their own. There was also, if you guys haven't watched, there is a YouTuber by the name of Anti-Trekker, who is doing a series about the Borg. He's like breaking the Borg down, right? And he talks about how when you first meet the Borg, the indication you've given is that that's the Borg. That's the only Borg. That's the only Borg that exist, right? And so once they met humanity and they assimilated humanity, they began to expand. And in fact, into First Contact, you could see that they've moved away from Best of Both Worlds, what we see in Best of Both Worlds. And that would explain some things happening in Voyager. So wouldn't it be interesting if that is true and they just started grabbing ships and assimilating them? It would also explain the ship in Borg, which never matched any known entity or any known Borg constructions and made no sense. It would also explain the Borg episode in Enterprise, where we see it constantly being Borgified. Every time we see it, it's more and more Borgified, which makes a lot of sense. Going back to what I started with, and I'm not going to get on this too much, but Visho Delvis says, Lore, we are humans. You'll get hate mail even if you discuss cockiness recipes. Well, here's the thing. If I think I'm in the wrong or I think it needs to be addressed, then I'm going to. Obviously, I have said multiple times that I'm a patriot, and I appreciate not only my military, but the militaries of most all governments, because I think militaries are just people, right? And so the fact that some people were saying that, I just wanted to go ahead and address it. But I get hate all the time. I'm not unused to hate. Also, the commenter came at me. His first comment was coming at me, but nobody listens to that, right? Isn't that method a bit inefficient? I don't think so, Troy. How's it inefficient? It seems more efficient than building your own ships. You need to build up a fleet. You find a ship, you assimilate it, you use that crew to make it to what you want it to be. How's that? It seems more efficient than construction yards. It really does. Schleppy42 says, less assimilated ships, more assimilated material. The Enterprise E corridors getting assimilated shows what that happening kind of. Exactly. And if you go to the Enterprise episode, rewatch Star Trek Enterprise with the Borg, and I forget the name of the episode, the insides of it look exactly, of that ship, look exactly like a Borg cube. Exactly like a Borg cube. They probably had an original design, but as they assimilated species, they adapted their ships into more uniform designs, i.e. cube, sphere, and diamond. I would say that probably as they continued, the audio sucks, dude. Maybe put the microphone close to your mouth. Enterprise episode. Rewatch Star Trek Enterprise with the Borg. And it sounds fine to me, William. I'll tell you what, let's do this, because y'all are going to keep annoying me. I'll move it a little bit closer. There we go. Put it right there. 1, if the audio is okay. 2, if it's not. And while we're doing that, I'll continue on. What in the world is with the Borg's obsession with geometric shapes? I don't know what in the world is with... I guess it's from a computer standpoint, is what they're trying to say. That would be my only guess, if I could. Beyond that, I guess it... Again, the Borg are made to look somewhat like a computer, right? And so, like a computer, that may be where it's actually coming from. And I'm adjusting the levels right now. I'll move them up a little bit. Let me know if that's a little bit better. You guys should be hearing me better now, too. Let me move just squeak up. There we go. Let me know how that works out. 3. I love that you guys put different numbers. I really love that. It's just awesome. At Lore Reloaded, I appreciate the military. Also Lore Reloaded. Describes Navy uniforms while showing Army. Everything I respect from a real American patriot, says the great Geeksby. Yeah, I know. The Army isn't as good as the Navy, according to Geeksby, apparently. But again, the Borg are made to look like computers, right? They're made to be almost like a virus. And so... to that end, you would expect a virus to use numbers, to use shapes, to move forward like that, right? That's what I would expect. Orotakawa Tinga, I'm of the theory that the Borg have at least one shipyard to build a minimum ship count and assimilate other ships to build out the rest of their massive ship counts. Okay, but there's no alpha canon that supports that. I would be interested to know what alpha canon specifically supports that, in your opinion. Alex, to us, why did the Borg start with a cube? A sphere would be better choice as it maximizes internal volume relative to the surface anew. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, a lot of things we could try to justify with that. Why the Borg would have that just a cube. It could have been something culturally. Maybe it was a sphere. Maybe they had the one ship and they built it out, right? Arcat's Gay, do you mean people like the Battlestar Galactica Raiders? What are you referring to? By the way, thanks so much for the support. It's because of Super Chats and patrons and viewers like you that keep this going. But again, what do you mean when you say people like the BSG Raiders? Aetheron, a useful comparison for the Borg Collective and their ships might be Mars from the webcomic A Miracle of Science. Is the collective a person? Is Mars? I don't know. Let's see. I mean, it's not like they are hung up on beauty, says Troyski. Well, that's true. That is absolutely true. Cubes and spheres have the largest volume of 3D shapes. It is meant to show their pure logic and lack of sense of style, or aesthetics, as a designer would say. I could agree with that, but then how would you explain the probe and the diamond? Those look aesthetically more pleasing. Someone asked, how did the Borg, how did their warp work, their warp fields and things like that? I don't think that's ever been explained. I don't think there's ever been really a explanation on how they do warp or transwarp. I honestly don't believe that it's technically warp that they're going through. I'm going to be talking about this on Friday's video. On Friday's video, I will be breaking down the rest of phasers versus disruptors and everything. And so when people say warp, I really think that's the communicator using it as a catch-all. So when they say the Borg cube has entered into warp, I don't know that it's actually warp. It's whatever version that the warp field is, right? Or whatever version of movement that we see from Starfleet. So, like for instance, with disruptors have no rhyme or reason to them. There are so many different kinds of disruptors that exist in the world that there's no complete understanding or cohesiveness. So I think that when someone says they're firing disruptors, it probably means they're firing something that isn't a phaser. And so when it comes to warp for the Borg, when they say they're going to warp, it may not be warp, but they don't have any other explanation for what it is. That would explain all of the warp levels as well, because again, when you look at some of the alpha powers, they say they're going warp whatever. Well, they may not be using warp as we understand it, but that's what the communicator brings out through it. So it's kind of an interesting conversation. Last points on the shape lore reloaded. Those basic shapes are also really easy to repair as opposed to complex designs like a galaxy-class starship. I mean, those are good points. That exactly. And that's how a computer would do it, in my opinion. The computer would look at the easiest way to fix something and the most efficient way and just go with that. And again, they don't care about aesthetics. They don't care about anything but ensuring it is what they would be able to upkeep. Right? Borg transwarp could be different. A Stellaris mod called... Borg transwarp could be different. A Stellaris mod called New Frontiers says transwarp is different to warp. Warp folds space, transwarp punches a hole through subspace. Sure, I mean, that makes sense. Don't they project some sort of integrity field in front of a ship to keep the ship from being destroyed in transwarp? Spheres do. I don't know if cubes do. I do know that spheres specifically. I meant our cube Borgs like Raiders are Cylons. I meant our cubes Borg like Raiders are Cylons. Yeah, I'm sorry. I saw that, Cascade. I should have done that. Again, thank you so much. Raiders are definitively Cylons. We know they have brains.
The last thing I expected.
We know they have brains. We know they have thoughts and feelings and things of that nature, and they can go insane. Uh, talking about Borg cubes being people, we're gonna talk about that towards the end. Um, I have some theories on that. I don't know. What made me think about it was Star Trek Online and how the Queen becomes a ship, and we know that people can become ships too, or become a part of the ship, because I believe we see that in TNG with the crew. Um, but okay, we'll get into that in a minute or two. Um, we do know that they used a laser beam on the. Yeah, it's interesting because when they first scanned it, they said there weren't any weapons and they couldn't have any people. And this is something Anti-Trekker brought up, which could be a reference to the entire ship was Borg, that it was all one person. Um, and I don't know. That's an intriguing thought. I never really thought of it that way until he brought that up. Um, Enterprise was in warp, and the cube visually caught up to them while in warp, I think, anyway. Yeah, it did. Seventh embryo was going on, and I mean, it's possible they have warp technology. I'm not saying they don't, but they don't utilize what we generally see when we see warp for alpha quadrant powers. It's something completely different. They don't have nacelles. It doesn't appear like a bubble is being created while they're moving at warp, right? And so it's possible they're using warp, but they may not. And even if they're not, the communicators would probably call it warp. Now, to be fair, usually when a ship moves and it's not at warp, or it's not using warp, they kind of point that out. Of course, they had a lot going on at that point, too, so that may have not been necessary information, you know? May have not been something they were watching too closely. I'd say the crew is one person. The ship is more like clothing to it. Borgs are shown to have two ways to produce new drones. They can either grow them or assimilate existent beings. Assimilation is more efficient, yet more risky. What if it's the same? They can grow them? Are you talking about the babies and stuff? Because I wonder if that wasn't retconned. You know? I'm always curious about that because we don't see it until Voyager after that. And it may have been retconned, or it could have been that they had just assimilated a planet nearby or maybe a ship. And so they use that to keep the babies alive until they get there. Honestly, what they were trying to point out is that this Borg cube, again, was just Borg, and that they didn't assimilate necessarily or really assimilate very often, that they had babies. I don't think ships are people. I just think it's impossible to separate the ship from the collective, with the shell being an extension of the Borg, like their cybernetic implants. That's possible. It's like the difference of gas engines or steam or electric. They all can make you move. Yeah, when it comes to warp speed. And that's a good point. Then I should point that out. Yeah, an electric car has the same effect as a gas car. So it's still able to move, and thus they just call it warp until there's a better way of doing it, until there's more explanations going on. Why would Borg ships have warp nacelles like we would expect? We don't even know how they made a warp field, or if they use warp coils like the Federation ship. Yeah, I mean, they don't even have, at least in Best of Both Worlds, this changes, but they don't even have specific locations. There's no main section. Like, there's not an engineering section. There's not a bridge. There's not anything like that. And so I think that it's possible that I think it's likely that they're using it in a way that we don't know and that we'll never know. I honest to God, hope that they don't try to explain the Borg. Nathan Norman, gotta go. Thanks for coming by, buddy. Always appreciated. I hope that they don't. I hope they keep them mysterious. That's the only way the Borg work, is if they're kept mysterious. You know. The great Geeksby, just paying homage to the YouTube idols. You're an inspiration. I'm gearing up a review show after our Comic-Con. Wish me luck. Well, good luck, buddy. Why don't you send it to James at lorereloaded.com. The moon just went behind the cloud. Send your info to james@lorereloaded.com. I'll take a look at it. Might even share it, good buddy. Might even share it. A fun question. Do you think the Borg would be capable of creating a data/lore artificial of love? I don't think they would. I think the Borg, I think they could, but I don't think they would. I don't think the Borg are really all about just becoming artificial intelligence. I think the Borg see perfection as a mixture of both humanoid and technology. I don't think they see it past that. Give me 1 second, guys. I apologize. You can use the idea of the ship being a body and the drones are certain cells that help maintain the immune system. Possibly. I agree. The less we know, the better. I, for one, hated the concept of the Borg Queen. Yeah, I mean, again, I think Anti-Trekker did it better. I think he wrote a better one. And instead of having the Borg Queen, if you needed to have this avatar, this Archon, have it be one of the crew, one of the main people. Again, have it be Beverly Crusher. That would have been very interesting. Deanna Troi, not like she does anything for the show. Whoever. Worf wouldn't have worked. But, I mean, have it be someone... have it be someone as part. Don't create this queen. That makes no sense, Well, according to Voyager, they just say the Omega particle is perfection. Well, true. They also say that species 8472 is the height of perfection as well. But again, I think it varies when it comes to perfection too, Borg tech can be reconfigured to do whatever they need, i.e. weapon nodes, firing beams, and torpedoes. Sure. One of the advantages is, again, the technology heals itself and can be whatever you need it to be. I don't disagree with any of that, in fact.
What are you? A monk?
Indeed. Must be said, you should slip some O-rings under those keycaps. It would make the typing less intrusive. I should. I'm sorry that the typing is any intrusive. I don't know what O-rings are, though. I see the Borg ships like central data center, and each drone adds to the logical processing. So you guys want to... Okay. 8472 are the Undine. They are. All right, so let's talk about the Borg being people. I think there's a lot of evidence for the Borg ship... if not being a Borg themselves, being an extension, like you guys say. Especially when you consider, again, the first interaction, they didn't detect anything. They didn't detect any Borg on there. They didn't detect, the ship didn't really make any sense. The ship can heal itself. The ship has all kinds of powerful abilities. And so and when you consider everything about the Borg is connected, like a transporter signal, if we remember, again, best of both worlds, it would make sense that when they built this technology, this Borg cube, that it is an extension. It is a part of who they are. Now, that is an amazing weakness as well. We saw that when they had Picard, and that basically caused the Borg to freeze up. It is an amazing weakness for them to have such interconnectivity. The question is did all the changes we see from the Borg after Best of Both Worlds, is that because of assimilated Federation officers? And I'd be curious what your guys' opinion is when it comes to that. Did the Federation and Starfleet inexorably change them, or did we just not see all the facets? Laughable Larry, Laura, you're amazing. No, you're amazing, buddy. You're amazing. A bunch of networked PCs isn't an AI, says Troy. Well, that's fair. Do you think Borg cubes are totally connected to the collective? Because if they are, alive hinges on if they can be disconnected from the collective and still function. I do think that there are, I wouldn't say disconnected. I would say everything's connected, but I do think that there are firewalls and things that would prevent negative impacts to the collective. So, for instance, let's say that you're fighting a alien species or they're fighting an alien species, one they want to assimilate. You're telling me the thought has never come across, they have never assimilated a scientist who tried to think how to beat the Borg using a virus or beat the Borg using a biogenic weapon or something of that nature. You know what I'm saying? You're telling me you've never thought of that at all, ever. Right? And so it seems unlikely that that idea was never assimilated and that they wouldn't put firewalls in for that. But I do think that all Borg and all cubes or ships would be connected. Sorry, off topic. Have you done any vids on the L-Orions? No, but I'm doing research for it. That should be coming up soon, I hope. Good afternoon, Laura. Really sorry I'm late. Had to run an errand and then I got lunch. Looking forward to rewatching this later. Well, I'm looking forward to you rewatching it too, buddy. What if all queens are linked to other queens, a sub-collective? Most insects have queens that are extremely important but are still slaves to the colony. Queens might be needed when subspace fails. So, the queen I am not a fan of. Like most people, I don't like the queen as a concept. I have heard an argument that I think is somewhat fair that the queen might be necessary in instances where the collective is not contactable. So it would make sense to me that the Borg would come up with some form of mini collective that existed if you were going to, and this is just off the top of my head, time travel. Or if you were disconnected for any reason, that they would have a Borg queen available. Or it doesn't even have to be a Borg queen. It could be some kind of mini collective, mini processor that runs. This would keep order and chaos, and you create it in a way that you wouldn't have a rebellion on your hands, right? So that makes sense to me. And I wish that's where they went with the Borg queen, that the queen was used for small pockets when they were disconnected. It still has some issues. It still has some... shall we use the term holes, shall we say? But from there, I don't know. Do know Logan is awesome. Would nanites work against the Borg, or would the nanites be assimilated? I think I'm of the opinion that. Well, I don't know, because Voyager retconned. I hate Voyager. It retcons so much. I was at first of the opinion that nanites were a part of the assimilation of the Federation. We never heard about nanites until it's brought up in Best of Both Worlds. We do know that the Borg assimilated some Federation officers, so the existence of nanites would perfectly explain Borg assimilation. Do I think they could use nanites to destroy the Borg? I mean, possibly. It was a discussion in the Best of Both Worlds itself. There does seem to be some delay on any upload to the collective as a whole that protects them from computer viruses and such. Hugh's independence didn't spread past one cube, for example. Yeah, I mean, and that's a good point. I didn't think about that. I would say that there is some type of cutoff that would prevent too much chaos. And I would almost bet that after what happened with Hugh, they assimilated or came up with a way to ensure that never happens again. Because you do have ships that you have Borg that are re-assimilated. Remember we saw in Voyager where there were Borg that had escaped and they went to 7 of 9 because...
What are you? A monk?
They went to 7 of 9 trying to figure out what was going on, and they figured out that 7 of 9, they had found their independence, 7 of 9 re-assimilated them, and they went on their merry way, and it didn't cause any chaos. So they had found a way past that, and that was probably after they saw what happened to that Borg cube, right? I thought the Borg, Savin Bulens, I thought that the Borg don't invent things, but only use what they assimilate. So if that is correct, Do they know how to make virus, not how to defend against it? Yeah, it's two things to that. First off, they would assimilate someone who knows how to do antivirus. We have antivirus technology on Earth right now. You're telling me Starfleet hasn't figured that out? So they would already have that, first off. But secondly, the Borg, that is inconsistent. There are several different Voyager episodes where the Borg think outside of the box. That would include, but is not limited to, the Omega particle. They were doing scientific research with different theories on the Omega particle. So them not researching or doing stuff is at best inconsistent. Now, the producers of Voyager and the writers have openly said they didn't care about continuity. They just wanted a good story. That's why we have these issues. Luke Favreau. The growing Borgs were babies in Q-Who and babies and teenagers in Voyager, where Seven says it's weeks for them to grow them. I don't remember that. I'll take your word for it. If you know the episode, Luke Favreau, I'd like to rewatch it, but I don't remember that. James Washington, the vinculums and central plexus act as filters. I mean, that would make sense. I don't know if there's any alpha canon for that, but that would definitively make sense on my side. Rubber Mallet, I think the Queen is dormant and brought online when the collective can't function during complex problems, when the collective is too conflicted to function. Yeah, by the way, Ichikuga Kurosaki has made it. So everybody relax. He's here. They're here. I don't know how there would be confliction in the Borg cube, in the Borg, but I mean, it's possible. The Queen has to be there for some reason. This is the same Starfleet that seems to forget the concepts of restore from backup or penetration testing are. That is true. Starfleet and lack of antivirus isn't too far-fetched. I mean, they suck in ground tactics and haven't figured out point defense yet. Yeah, they have some issues. It took 7 of 9, 5 years to reach maturity in the maturation chamber. I would love if you guys could give me the episode where it talks about that, because that's intriguing to me then. So she became fully mature in 5 years versus how long it generally takes. That's interesting for me. It was Maturation Chambers. I think it was the one where the Borg kids were introduced. Okay, well, I mean, I'll look it up myself, but if you guys have it, let me know. If the Borg Queen was real, the self-destruct would have been turned off by the Queen. If the Borg Queen was real, the self-destruct would have been turned off by the Queen. What specific episode are you referencing in that? Because the Borg Queen uses the self-destruct a couple of times. Do you think the Borg are like... Do you think they are other Borg-like species out there? I do. I think there are Borg-like species in the Federation. There are species that take out the brain of a child, take out part of the brain of a child, and put in a computer. And they're a Starfleet member. It's in the Next Generation. Why would the Borg assimilate children? Knowledge. If they have the maturation chambers, then that would make sense to fully grow them. I mean, I don't know. It looks better on TV that they assimilate a child than kill one. I think the Queen was invented by network execs, too tired to read the lore well, and just went out of a cheap cash grab. It wasn't that. It was a cash grab, but the Borg the Queen was created to ensure that there was a main bad guy for the protagonists to fight. I watched that episode. What's up, Painter Tim? I watched the episode with the aliens that took out the brain and put in a chip when I was a kid. And so you guys are saying it's the binars. I'm talking about the binars. I never put that together. Binars and binary. I was a kid when I watched that episode. I'm now putting that together. Luke Favreau says it was an episode where the Voyager crew find a dead cube. They find a Borg baby and Borg teenagers, I believe. Don't remember the name. Okay, I'll look it up. Oh, let's see. Sorry if the Borg Queen was real. She would have turned off the cube's self-destruct and best of both worlds. Gotcha. That makes more sense. Yeah, that's a good question too. That again, she adds a lot of plot holes to that. Unless that was just a flaw that they fixed. I never even thought of that. She would turn off the self-destruct, wouldn't she? And she'd override it. She'd just disconnect. Yeah, that's a good point. Why do Borg ships have artificial gravity? It's ultimately unnecessary because it's cheaper to use and it's a good defense mechanism against obnoxious boarders. Well, I mean, they have to walk around to do all of the stuff, right? They don't instantly fix it. You feed a four. The Borg should have queens, honestly, but not as monarchs or directors. Queens like bees or ants existing to breed new members of the collective. Maybe. Maybe. Assimilated babies to use their brains for processing power. You're horrible, Arcat's gay. I mean, that may be why they're doing it. But, oh man, you're a bad person. In all the best ways. By the way, sorry, hey, Hellyear becoming a lore master. I only have one screen because I'm giving the screen to some. I'm doing something with it with the other one. I'll have another screen coming up soon though. So this is why it's kind of I'm having to jump between stuff. We also got someone else who became. Oh. Schleppe, thanks so much. Do you think the Borg are like the Geth from Mass Effect, with drones being platforms for the Borg rather than actual Borg? Do you think the Borg are like the Geth from Mass Effect, with the drones being platforms? I don't in that way, but they could still be Geth. I don't in that way necessarily, Schleppy, but they still could be. I'll have to think about that. Can the Queen be assembled anywhere? I wonder if she was even on the ship at all during First Contact until they went back in time and she wanted to be. I would almost say that all ships come with a model. It's the only way to explain it. And for her to have the consistent, look like the consistent actress that she is. The Borg should have depressurized everything on their ships outside of assimilation areas to prevent escape. That's a good idea. The Queen has no lungs or heart, and her skeleton is metal, so I think the First Contact Queen is an android of sorts. She was kind of, wasn't she? Let me think about that. Because it was an exoskeleton. She didn't have any real human parts, and the body was more an exoskeleton too. Wow, that is a huge plot hole. We need to tell Anti-Tracker about that. Because that is a huge plot hole right there. Because, again, they specifically don't like androids. They specifically don't like artificial intelligence. They believe that it is an amalgamation of technology and of humans. So, I'll look that up on the maturation chambers. I know this is off topic, but I found out the Enterprise A has an EPS taps. Okay, what's up?
That is a very, very big plot hole, and everybody should know that.
It is. All right, go play downstairs. Aw. I know. The Borg don't get less intelligent as you kill them, just less efficient from lack of numbers. Otherwise, it's a good comparison. Sure. That is Alice Curge who played her? Okay. Well, there were a couple of queens, actually. Does the collective have lag? If an issue is extremely complicated, does the whole galaxy have to concur? I would imagine they have some form of lag, but I don't think, it's impactful. In First Contact, she's clearly biologically, because she gets destroyed by the flesh-eating gas. Yeah, but it was just on her... Everything was an exoskeleton. Everything was an exoskeleton. So... What point is it? By the Rana Rith becoming a lore master? What is the... It's the same as a T-2000 or whatever, What's the point of that at all? I don't know. If the cat is your editor, does that make your offspring your executive producers? It does, in fact, yeah. All right, guys, we're going to be ending this very shortly. Invasion of the Adorable. But yeah. Don't tell Anti-Tracker nothing that FC review does not need more red. Okay. Yeah, he does like 3 minutes of review. I love his reviews. I wish they were a little bit longer, in my opinion. In First Contact, she's a British actress. She played in several BBC movies and TV shows. Cool. But yeah, you guys have any other questions before we end this out? Before we get ended? Let's get it ended in here. By the way, my connection has been fantastic, which tells me it was my computer side. I'm looking forward to playing this thing on Twitch. What if the Queen is just a component? Well, I think ultimately she is. I don't think that she is... I don't think that she is... She might be her own person, but it would be kind of like... I'm trying to think of a good example. It'd be kind of like a processing unit, you know? So I don't think that she's necessarily an individual. Maybe the brain is the most necessary part of the Queen. It uses the brain as the most efficient compact computer available. I mean, so there is a and I think the episode was, I think it was on First Contact or something. But there is a explanation of the Borg out there. I forget what it's called. Where they talk about the Borg Queen and how she was a species that could control and was telepathic, had all these kinds of powers, and it was a Vulcan who was saying she was going to be assimilated and take over. That's an interesting concept. It's not alpha canon, but that's an interesting concept where that's why the Queens existed. Have you ever done a lore on the USS Bozeman? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Anti-Trekker's reviews are super long. No, the reviews in totality are, but the episodes are not. I wish the episodes had more breakdown in them. If you want to talk plot holes and contradictions, look into the Star Trek Legacy story. Yeah, yep, that's why it's not alpha canon. I just thought the Geth thing might explain the Queen by her being order and consensus to the Borg when needed, and it may also answer if the ships are Borg. Yeah, maybe. All right, guys, we're going to be ending it there. I want to thank you so much. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to see you on the next Lore Reloaded.